Marley Bird YouTube channel, brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. In this video, I will show you how to make the first section of the Marley Bird popular poncho. This is a crochet along sponsored by Red Heart Yarns for 2016. And if you follow along during the crochet along, you will find a video for each section of the poncho to help you create this perfect fall accessory. I treat crochet alongs just as if they are classes. So in each video, you will find at least a 30-minute class of me showing you the stitch pattern, offering any tips and tricks, and talking you through how the stitch pattern really melds itself and coordinates with the other stitch patterns that I chose to use in this poncho. Now, speaking of ponchos, they are seriously on trend this season. Whether you have a big drapey cowl neck, a turtleneck, a simple cowl neck, or no neck, and then some fringe, no fringe, a little corded fringe, who knows? They are so popular. And so this particular poncho incorporates all of those variations. You can make this poncho perfect for you, and that will make it your most popular piece, hence the name, the popular poncho. This poncho is so much fun to make. You are going to learn a lot of new techniques, and I can't wait to get started. The first thing you need to do is download your pattern. You can find a link to the pattern right down there in the video description, and while you're down there, smash that like button, as my kids say, because you're gonna love this video. Once you have the pattern, gather your materials and jump back over here. We'll take a look at this stitch pattern, review the actual written instructions, and then use the chart to make a swatch so that we can learn how to make this stitch pattern. You have the stitch pattern for section 1, and let's take a look at the stitch pattern as it's made on the actual poncho. As you look down here, you can see this is the poncho that is made out of the teal berry colorway of Red Heart Unforgettable. And what's really great about this particular stitch pattern is that it's actually made in back and forth rows, and it is the post stitches that are very subtle in their view that give you the chevron look, which is why I called it the raised chevron. And these raised chevron stitches muddle up the striping effect of the actual panel of the poncho, and it gives a really nice texture of the poncho because they are raised. By breaking up the striping of the yarn, it actually makes the poncho that much more flattering. As you're wearing the poncho and somebody is looking at you, their eye isn't just going to get stuck on a bunch of stripes. Their eye is going to continue to move around your body and have some ebb and flow, and so it makes it a very flattering piece for all figures. This particular stitch pattern is not very difficult to do because it uses double crochets, and the most difficult part of it is just learning how to make those front post and back post stitches. Now let's talk about the pattern. As you can see, I printed the pattern directly from marleybird.com, and each section of the pattern that is released will start off roughly the same way. The start will always begin by telling you which section it is that these instructions pertain to. So this is section 1. You will have an image of the poncho and then a link to the pattern on Ravelry. If you are ever in need to find out what the specific details are of the pattern, there is a link right down at the bottom of this particular page, but if you scroll down on your screen, that will take you to the details page, and that way you can find out any other details you might need of this pattern. As I scroll on or turn my page, it begins by giving you the pattern. Now this isn't the full pattern, this is the pattern for section 1. Now section 1, it begins, and it also tells you section 1, that the directions are for size small and medium are outside of the parentheses, and for the large to 2 extra large are inside the parentheses. That is important to note, so that way as you're working along, you don't accidentally use the wrong number as you're going through and choosing how many stitches you need to chain. You can follow on, and it will give you the gauge for each stitch pattern we're using. For the raised chevron stitch, we will have 16 stitches, which equal 2 repeats, and that will measure 4.5 inches in the raised chevron pattern. Now, when we're talking about gauge, it's important that you reach gauge with the yarn you're going to use for the pattern. Now, I'm going to say that again. If you're doing a gauge swatch, you need to use the yarn you will use for your actual poncho, because that is the yarn you're going to use for your poncho. So that's the yarn you want to make sure that you get gauge on. Now gauge, all that means is that you need to reach the same measurement that I reached as I was designing the poncho. If that means you use a size H crochet hook, great. If you need to go up a size or down a size to reach those 16 stitches to equal 4.5 inches, that's totally okay. You can change your hook size as necessary. The most important part here is that you reach the same measurement that I did. So that gauge information right there is very important. You want to make sure that your poncho is going to fit at the end of the project. As I scroll on or turn my page, you will see there is a list of abbreviations that are used throughout the pattern. And then there are special stitches. Now these special stitches are something that you want to make note of because they are stitches that make that particular stitch pattern special. Meaning in this stitch pattern, we are going to be doing back post double crochets, front post double crochets, and back post double crochet 2 togethers. And by doing those stitches, that's what's going to create our chevron. So if you aren't sure how to do those and you need a little bit more instruction than just the video here, we have the written instructions right there. And you'll notice that the back post double crochet and the front post double crochet are also highlighted in, meaning they have hyperlinks to other videos that demonstrate those techniques. Pretty convenient, right? It's nice to have videos that help you along the way. I'm going to scroll on or turn my page and you'll see that it says let's begin and it says setup. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the raised chevron panel and the foundation is a multiple of 8 stitches plus 5. Now, why did I put that on there? I put that there because I know that there are some of you doing this crochet along that are not interested in doing the poncho, but you want to learn the stitches. So maybe you learn this stitch and you decide, I'm going to go make a blanket, or maybe you're going to use it for a baby cardigan. I have no idea, but you need to know what that stitch multiple is that we're using. That's why I put that information there. So the stitch multiple for this particular pattern is 8 stitches plus 5. As you carry on, you'll see that it says chain 45, and in the parentheses, it has the number 77. That's how many stitches you are going to start off chaining to begin your project. So choose which number you're going to use. Remember, the number outside of the parenthesis is for the small medium. The number inside the parenthesis is for the large 2XL. So that's kind of a wide size range there, but decide which one you want to do. You'll see that there are instructions, follow it along there for rows 1 through 5, and then it says repeat rows 2 through 5 only until the piece measures either 26.5 inches or 35.5 inches. That's great, right? It's only a 5-row repeat, meaning you are going to repeat these 5 rows until your full panel measures 26.5 inches if you're making the small medium and 35.5 inches if you're making the small 2XL. So it's really going to be easy to memorize once you get going, and that makes it a wonderful project for a crochet along, I think, because you won't have to go back and look at the pattern constantly. You'll start to get the hang of it as you continue on in the pattern. I want to point out that you'll notice in the row section of this, I went ahead and I changed the color of the front post double crochet and the back post double crochet letters, letting you know that those are the stitches you will be using on that row. Now, does that mean there are no back post double crochet on that row? The answer is yes, but you might say, well, wait, I see the back post double crochet written in the row. That's because you will be doing your front post double crochet around a back post double crochet and vice versa. So to ease up on confusion, I thought it was helpful to highlight the word, the front post double crochet, the letters, however you want to say that, on the particular row, indicating that's what you're going to be using. For example, on row 2, you'll see that I changed the letters of FPDC to purple because you will be doing front post double crochet on that row. On row 3, you'll notice I changed the letters for BPDC to orange, and that's because you will be doing back post double crochet on that row. But if we carry on, you'll see it says around next FPDC. But I did not make those letters purple because those are not the stitches you're going to be working. They're the stitches you're going to be working around. Does that make sense? It's a little trick that I like to use to make sure that I'm on track so I don't get confused. Just by changing those simple colors of the letters of the stitches I'm going to be using on that row, it really helps me stay on track. And there's a method to my madness by using those colors, and I'm going to bring that up next. So as you carry on, those are your written instructions. But if you are like me and you get a little bit dyslexic with written instructions, because that happens to me all the time, I'm switching things up and I have a really hard time. I like to use crochet charts. So as you go on, you'll notice that there are two charts, but they are identical in that they are the same charts, but one is colored and one is not. As we look down here, you can see the first chart, it says raised chevron stitch. And the only colored portion on this chart are the little yellow highlighted portions on the chart. Now those little highlighted yellows are indicating that those are your skipped stitches. Because it's a little confusing as you're working along this pattern, what stitches you're skipping and what stitches you're not, I thought it was helpful to always highlight the stitches that you will be skipping on the next row. So that's why there's that little yellow highlight. But as I look at this raised chevron pattern, I get a little confused because all of the symbols for the post stitches look the same, right? The only thing that makes them different is that one is done on the right side row and the other is done on the wrong side row. Meaning your front post double crochet is done on the right side, and when you're on the wrong side and you come to that stitch, it's a back post double crochet. Well, that can be really confusing. So once again, I bring in my colors. I go to the chart below. That is the one I'm going to use here in the video. And you'll notice I went ahead and I highlighted the actual symbols with a color indicating, okay, when you come to this, you will be doing a front post double crochet. When you come to this, you will be doing a back post double crochet. And you'll notice they're the same colors as I used in the actual letters that I also changed the colors in the written instructions. See how handy that is? So that way, those of you who are like, I like the written instructions, but I want to really try out that chart. This is a way for you to be able to kind of compare and contrast the two and helpfully to keep you on track. And then those of you who might be really into charts, but you just want to double check your work or double check my work, you can go back to the written instructions and say, okay, on row 3, as I come across and I see a post stitch, it's highlighted orange, or here it kind of looks a little red, and it's a back post double crochet because I'm on a wrong side row. Does that make sense? The key here is that you can really customize the way your patterns are written or your charts are done simply by taking markers or colored pencils, or if you're computer savvy, learning how to highlight those sections on your patterns. Whatever you need to do to make the pattern work for you is key. If you are struggling along in a pattern, keeping track or knowing where you are, if adding a color to a particular stitch pattern that you need to do or a particular technique, whatever it may be, if that helps trigger a memory for you and help you stay on track in your pattern, do it. Don't hesitate. So that's what I did with this chart. So knowing that we have the written instructions and we have the chart available for you to follow along, I am going to use the chart in the video today as we make this raised chevron stitch, and that way I can point out how to use the chart at the same time I'm teaching you how to make the raised chevron stitch. We've gone over the pattern and I've pointed out the various additions I've made to the pattern on marleybird.com to really help you excel in this pattern, and it's time to get started. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talk. So go ahead, grab a yarn and hook, and let's learn how to make the raised chevron stitch. I will caution you, if you're using a different yarn than you're going to use on the poncho, this is a great opportunity to, one, learn the actual stitch pattern. But you can't use this particular swatch as your gauge swatch because it's not the same yarn you're using for your poncho. If you want to both do your gauge swatch and learn this stitch pattern, go ahead and grab your yarn you're using for the poncho and the hook size you want to use. And then you will kill two birds with one stone. For this gauge swatch, I am going to chain 29 chains, and that is the same number of chains as we can see on the chart here. These little ovals right here at the bottom of the chart are chains. So let's chain 29. Place your tail of your yarn in the palm of your hand. Take your working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and middle finger. When you come back up, cross over. Turn your hands over, go underneath the front loop, grab the back loop, and off. You have a slip knot. You will place that slip knot directly onto your hook, and you will carry on chaining 29 chains. You chain like so. You go around your yarn, grab it with the hook portion of your hook, and pull it through the loop that's on your hook. Round your yarn, pull it through the loop that's on your hook. You never count the loop on your hook as a stitch, so we've done 2 chains. Go ahead and get your full 29. Once you have 29 stitches, it's time to carry on in pattern. Looking at the chart, you can see that these ovals down here are my 29 stitches, and my number 1 is right out there. You'll notice that the placement of the row numbers on the outside lets you know which direction you need to read the chart for that row. Right here you can see these 2 chains are sitting to the outside, and this stitch right there is a double crochet, and we will place it in the 3rd chain from hook. So we will do a double crochet in the 3rd chain from hook, and as I look on, I can see I have double crochets all the way to my end of my row. So let's do our double crochet. We yarn over our hook, and we will count 3 chains from hook. 1, 2, 3. Go into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. We go into the next chain over, yarn over our hook, go into the chain, yarn over our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Yarn over our hook, go into the next chain, yarn over our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over your hook, pull through 2, yarn over your hook, pull through 2. You'll notice right here, we're getting our nice double crochets. Go ahead and carry on doing your double crochets all the way to the end of this row. On the last double crochet, once it's finished, we can see down here at the end of our chart that we have 2 chains going up to row 2. So we will chain 2 stitches, chain 1, chain 2, and turn our work. It really doesn't matter if you turn first and chain or chain and then turn, either way works. Looking at our chart, we can see that there is a double crochet directly on top of this double crochet. So that means these 2 chains out here do not count as a stitch. So we will never work into those 2 chains because our first stitch is worked directly into that double crochet right there. So it's the last double crochet we worked. We carry on, we can see it's a double in the next one, a double in the next one, a double in the next one. That skipped stitch is not skipped until the next row, okay? Just so that you know. So that one is still a double crochet, but then see how this one right here has yellow on top of it? It's because we will skip that one. See how there's no stitch right there? And I'm moving my chart a little bit. There's no stitch on top of that one. So that little yellow mark is just an indicator to let you know we are going to skip that stitch, do a front post double crochet around that double crochet, do a double crochet into the top of that double crochet, and another front post double crochet around that one. So this one stitch will have 3 stitches worked into it, and then we will skip another stitch. So because we've skipped 2 stitches, but we want our stitch count to stay the same, we've increased 2 stitches into that one. Does that make sense? So in essence, it's like we've taken the stitch that would have normally went there, and we're just moving it over here and doing a post stitch. So let's get to that point. We yarn over our hook, go into that first double crochet, and you'll notice I'm going through both loops. I am not working through just the back loop. I want to go through both loops. And I complete my double crochet. There's 1, a double crochet in the next one over. So there's 2, double crochet in the next one over. There's 3, and a double crochet in the next one over. So there's 4. Okay, so there are my 4 double crochets that are represented right there in the chart. Now I'm going to skip the next double crochet and work a front post double crochet around the next one. So here we go. Yarn over your hook. we will skip this double crochet, and working into this one around the post, we will go in. Let's see here, I'm going to straighten this out. We'll go in from the right side, go around the post, come out the left side, yarn over your hook, and then follow that same path. So go back around the back and come back up. See that? So you have 3 loops on your hook, looks like a basic double crochet, and you treat it as such. So you do a double crochet. The next part of the chart says there's a regular double crochet into that same stitch. So we will yarn over our hook, kind of move the post stitch out of the way that you just created, and find the 2 loops. See the 2 loops right there? Yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over your hook, draw through 2, yarn over your hook, draw through 2. Now yarn over your hook, and then working around this same post, we will do a front post double crochet. So we will go in from the right, out the left, yarn over, follow that same path back, and then treat it like a regular double crochet. So we've done 3 stitches around 1. We want to make sure that we skip that next double crochet. Remember, it's skipped in our chart. And then we will double crochet in the next 5 double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're back to our repeat. So we will skip this stitch, go around this stitch post. So we will do a front post double crochet. So I go in the right, around the back of that post and out the left, yarn over and follow that same path. So come back and then treat it as a regular double crochet. And we will do a double crochet in the top of that stitch. Just remember, if you move that post out of the way, you'll find the 2 legs of that stitch you're looking for. And now we have to do another front post double crochet around that same post. So I'm doing that. And we've just put 3 into 1. And we skip the next double crochet, and we will do 5 double crochet to the next. This swatch has 3 stitch pattern repeats. We'll do that one more time. We will skip this double crochet, yarn over our hook, do a front post double crochet around the next one, do a double crochet into the top of that stitch, and another front post double crochet around that same stitch. As you're working on the poncho, obviously you're not to the end. You're going to continue on repeating these repeats until you get to the very end. And this is what it will end up like. So I'm at the end of my swatch, and I want to make sure I skip this double crochet and I finish off with 4 double crochet in the last 4 stitches. Really simple, no big tricks here. Just make sure you only do the 4 double crochet to the very end. 1, 2, 3. 1 more here at the very end, and I have finished the first section of my swatch. And this first row right here represents my row 2 all the way along, and you'll notice once again I highlighted those post stitches as purple so that I knew that they were front post double crochets. Now that I'm at the end of my row, I'm moving up to row 3, so my row 3 number is right here. I will chain 2, and then I will work all the way back in this direction. So let's proceed with that. Pick up my work, let's chain 1, chain 2, turn my work. I can see here that this stitch, this first stitch, is directly on top of that stitch. So I don't count those 2 chains as a stitch. I carry on working into that first double crochet. So I will do a double crochet in the first 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3. The next stitch, you'll notice on the chart that it's highlighted, meaning we will skip this stitch. And around the next stitch, we will do a back post double crochet. You'll notice this next stitch is actually the front post double crochet we did on the row before. So all you will do is you'll yarn over your hook, working around the post of the stitch of the front post double crochet. So I'm coming from the back, I'm going from the right, around, out the left. You see that? Yarn over, come through that same path. So I'm out the left, come out the right and up, and then I complete my double crochet. You'll notice that the chart has another double crochet right on top of that stitch, just similar to where we put the middle one between those two post stitches. So we've worked around the post, so now we've got to work into that same stitch with a regular double crochet. We'll double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch. Now it's time to do our back post double crochet once again. So we've worked into that actual stitch, but now we got to work around this post with another back post double crochet. So yarn over your hook, coming from the back to the right side of the stitch, come out the left, yarn over, and then follow that same path. So out the left, come out the right, pop up, you have your stitches on there, and you do your double crochet. Now the back post double crochet is a little bit tricky. Give yourself some time and some patience. It will take a little bit of time, but once you do a couple repeats of it, it will get faster. You carry on in the pattern, and you can see on the chart that the next stitch is highlighted, meaning we skip it. So we go on to the next stitch and we do a double crochet. We do another double in the next stitch and a double in the next stitch. We're back to our repeating raised chevron. So we will yarn over our hook, skip the next stitch, do a back post double crochet around the next stitch. So I'm coming from the back, I go the right side, go around the post to the left side, yarn over, follow that same path all the way back out, and finish my double crochet. Don't forget that the next part is to put a double crochet in the top of that same stitch we just worked around. Do a double crochet in the next stitch, and you'll do a double crochet in the next stitch. And now we have to do a back post double crochet around that stitch. So I've yarned over my hook. I'm coming to the back of the stitch, coming up the right side, out the left side, grabbing my yarn, coming that same path back out, and then finishing my double crochet. Carry on with the chart, skip a stitch, do a double crochet in the next 3 stitches, and we're on the final repeat of this swatch. If you're working the poncho, obviously you will have to repeat more than just 3. We will skip this stitch, going around the post of the next stitch. We're going to do our back post. So again, I'm coming from the back to the right side, out the left side, yarn over, come back the same path, and then finish your double crochet. Put our double crochet in the top of that same stitch, a double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, and then a back post double crochet around that same stitch. So I'm coming around it, going around, grab, come back, and then double crochet. I know I did that one a little fast, but I figure it's the 3rd one. You've probably got the hang of it. Skip that stitch, and you finish off with 3 double crochet to the very end. So those of you who are working on the poncho right now, you would continue on until you got to the last 3 stitches, and you would just double crochet in the last 3 stitches. I'm going to set this down, and it doesn't look like much because all the action is actually on the other side. It's on the right side. But this row right here is a direct representation of row 3. Now we move up to row 4. So I will chain 2, chain 1, chain 2, and turn my work. And again, I know that's chain 2 because it's right there. And look, as I turn my work and I move my chart, you can see here are those post stitches. So they are showing up. They don't show up when you're looking at the wrong side. It's when we turn it around and we look at the right side of the fabric, they begin to show up. So we've chained 2 and we continue on. Now you'll notice in the chart for this one, we're back to the purple. So we will do front post double crochets around these back post double crochets we did before. So yarn over your hook. You will double crochet in the first 2 double crochet because that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. You can see in the chart that that next stitch is highlighted, meaning we will skip this one. Yarn over our hook, do a front post double crochet around this post stitch right there. So I just did my front post double crochet. Then we have to put a double crochet into the top of that post stitch. So you have to move the post out of the way and find that stitch. Okay, find the legs of that stitch. Do your double crochet. Now you'll have a double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And now we'll do 2 stitches with this stitch right here. So we'll start off with our double crochet. And we will do our front post double crochet. So I yarn over my hook and I'm working around this stitch. So I just worked into the stitch at the top. Now I'm working around the post. Go in the right, go around the back and go out the left. Yarn over, follow that same path and out. Yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. You'll notice that you skip the next stitch. You will do a single crochet, or not, I'm sorry. You do a double crochet in the next stitch, skip the next stitch, and you're right back to pattern. So we will do a front post double crochet around that post stitch, do a double crochet into the top of that post stitch, do a double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3. And now we're over here to this post stitch. So we start off with a double crochet into the top of it. And now we're going to do a front post double crochet around the post. So I'm going around the post as a front post double crochet and I complete that. Skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, skip the next stitch, and I'm back over here to the post. So one last time, I do my front post double crochet, do my do my double crochet into the top of that same post stitch, do a double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3. And then we do a double crochet in the top of this post stitch, and then we do a front post double crochet around that post stitch. We will skip that next stitch, finish off with 2 double crochet. Remember, if you're working on the poncho, you've got a little bit more to go. You've got to do a couple more repeats before you're to the end, and then you finish off with the 2 double crochet. We just completed row 4 right here. So here's row 4, and this is what it looks like in the actual gauge swatch. And you can see we're beginning to get this nice V look. Only one more row for this stitch pattern. Let's look at row 5. We begin with the chain 2. So I will chain 2 and turn my work. This one gets a little bit tricky, so bear with me here. We will put a double crochet in our first stitch right here. Then we will skip a stitch and working around the post of that next stitch, that post right there. It's this post that's creating the V on the other side, that chevron look. We will do our back post double crochet. So I go around that post, yarn over, and then follow the same path back and complete my back post double crochet. I will put a double crochet into the top of that same stitch. Now I double crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're to this symbol here where it looks like there's a whole lot going on. And that's because there is. What we will do is put a double crochet into the next stitch, and then we're going to do a back post double crochet 2 together around that post stitch and that post stitch. And we will skip this center double crochet right there. Here we go. Work with me here, okay? So we yarn over our hook. We'll do a double crochet in the next stitch. So that's the start of it. And now we have to do our back post double crochet 2 together. So yarn over your hook, go around the post of that same stitch you just double crocheted in, and yarn over and pull through 2. So I have 2 loops on my hook. You will pause there. Yarn over your hook, skip the next stitch, come all the way over here to the next post stitch. If I were to flip it over, it's right, see, it's right there, okay? So working around that post stitch, I'm going to do another back post double crochet, but I'm only going to do it partially, meaning, so I pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, and stop. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. Now I yarn over, draw through all 3 loops, and that stitch is complete. I yarn over my hook. I need to go in to the top of that post stitch I just worked around to do a double crochet. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, and we've completed this, okay? So we've done a double crochet, a back post double crochet 2 together, and a double crochet. If I flip this over, this is what it's going to look like. What we've done here is we've pulled together this line of post stitches and this line of post stitches and made them as one stitch by doing the back post double crochet 2 together. I know it seems tedious. Just think of it as you're partially completing 2 back post double crochets. On your last yarn over and pull through, you are completing the full double crochet 2 together. Let's do that again. Let me get back to where I need to carry on here. So I just finished my double crochet, so I need to do 5 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm back to the part of my chart where I've highlighted it green. So we will do another one of these back post double crochet 2 togethers, okay? So we will start off by doing a double crochet in the top of that post stitch. So we'll start off with our double crochet. And then we have to do our double crochet back post 2, back post double crochet 2 together. So yarn over our hook, go around the post of that stitch you just worked into, and yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. So you have 2 loops on your hook. That's where you will pause. Yarn over your hook, skip the next stitch, come over here to the next post stitch, do another back post double crochet partially completed. So I yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, and stop. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. So I've worked into this post stitch and I've worked into this post stitch, but I haven't completed either one. This last yarn over and pull through is what makes those 2 stitches completed into one stitch. Now I yarn over my hook and I work into the top of that post stitch I worked around, the last one I did, and I do a double crochet. Whew. If you're working on your poncho, carry on to the end of the row. If you are just working on your swatch, let's go ahead and double crochet into the next 5 stitches. 5 double crochets, and now we're at the end. Now you'll notice on the chart that it's not green, it's actually that reddish orange color because we will just be doing our back post double crochet. But we have to start off with a double crochet into the next stitch, and now we'll do our back post around that same post stitch. So I'm doing my back post double crochet around that post stitch. I will skip a stitch and finish up with a double crochet at the end, and that completes my row 5. Now the stitch pattern repeat requires that you will continue on repeating rows 2 through 5 for the full stitch pattern. So let's turn this over and see what we have. As I turn my work over and I compare it directly to the chart, you can see that we do have our raised chevrons right here that were created by doing post stitches, just like they are indicated right here. And this green stitch for the back post double crochet 2 together, it left us with 1 stitch, even though we took 2 stitches to create it. It left us with 1 stitch, meaning our stitch count has not changed. So at the end of this row, if you find all of a sudden you have too few or too many stitches, you have either incorrectly done the back post double crochet 2 together or forgotten to skip a stitch. So make sure you go back and check out when you do those back post double crochet 2 togethers. Remember, there is also a double crochet on the top of those post stitches. I know it seems like a lot, but just take it step by step, one little step at a time, and I know you can do it. Looking at this, you can see that if we begin with row 2 again, we're on the right side right here. So as we begin working across, the point of our chevron right here will begin right here in the center, directly on top of this point. I've gone ahead and I've worked up a little swatch in the cappuccino color because it's my favorite and I can't wait to wear it. And so I want to show you what it's going to look like if you were to work it up in the grand scale with all of the different chain amounts. So let me move this out of the way. As we look at the cappuccino, you can see how the raised chevrons really begin to stack up on one another. And each repeat of rows 2 through 5 stack up and you get this really great raised chevron look. It's subtle, it gives wonderful texture, and it goes really fast. Honestly, the first couple repeats might go a little slow because you're trying to teach yourself how to do the post stitches and really read your crochet. But as you get going along, it becomes easy. I promise you. Stick with this. It is well worth it. Oh my gosh, isn't that just beautiful? It's just so stunning. And as I mentioned, this is the Red Heart Unforgettable in the cappuccino color. For this swatch, I would like you to work through this stitch pattern repeat one more time. So work rows 2 through 5 once more. Once they're complete, you will finish off with just a row of double crochets and then finish off your work and grab your tape measure. I want you to measure 16 stitches or 2 stitch pattern repeats and see if it measures 4.5 inches. If your work is smaller than 4.5 inches, I need you to go up a hook size. If your work is larger than 4.5 inches, you need to go down a hook size. Either way, you might need to go up a couple hook sizes or down a couple hook sizes. The important factor here is that you need to get 4.5 inches equal to 2 stitch pattern repeats. So use the hook size that's going to get you that, okay? So see where I really feel like doing this little gauge swatch is perfect because it introduces you to the stitch pattern, it helps you understand the stitches, and it gives you a chance to test and make sure that you're making your poncho just the right size. Once your stitch pattern is complete, go ahead and let's get started on the actual poncho. You will chain your designated number. Remember, you can follow along with the pattern itself. The link again is down there in the video notes. Whether you're making the smaller size or the larger size, chain that number of stitches. You will either have 5 stitch pattern repeats or 9 stitch pattern repeats, depending on the size you're making. Go ahead, work that along until your panel is the measurement indicated in the pattern. Once you've reached the measurement indicated in the pattern, do a row of double crochets and finish off your work. Now let's talk about your homework, okay? What is the best way for you to make sure that you can keep up with this crochet along? If it were me, I would try and make milestone points for you to work on every day on the pattern. So maybe you make sure that you work 5 inches every day or 10 inches every day. I mean, if you do 10 inches every day, you'll be done in no time. But if you do 5 inches and 7 inches, it's workable, it's feasible. It will take a little bit more time at the beginning. I will caution you that. And I will caution you that as you get more comfortable with the stitch pattern and you're working along, take a second and set your work down to make sure you're not getting too tight. Because if you're like me, you'll notice that as you are getting more comfortable with the stitch pattern, you'll tend to tighten your stitches a little bit. So you don't want to get to the very end and all of a sudden have a trapezoid instead of a rectangle. So just set your work down and take your measuring tape out and just make sure the bottom portion measures the same as the top portion. It will help you in the end, okay? Because that's essentially what you're doing. You're making a large rectangle. You will chain the number of stitches, work the stitch pattern until it measures the number that's in the pattern, and you will have a finished rectangle. Once this rectangle is complete, you will be ready to do the panel in the next part of this poncho. Let's talk a little bit about the yarn. Red Heart Unforgettable is 100% acrylic roving, meaning it is very lightly spun and it has a really beautiful halo. What makes this yarn so beautiful makes it really difficult to frog, meaning ripping out, right? So as you're working along, if you find that your stitches are starting to like stick together or hold together a little bit as you're trying to rip them out, be gentle with it. Don't pull too hard or it will break. And if it does break, it's okay. It's not gonna mess anything up. Just rejoin your yarn and carry on in your pattern. The other thing is, as you're working from the ball of your Red Heart Unforgettable, it's best to work from the outside of the ball. Same reason is if you're working from the center pull portion, you have a tendency to pull on it and it could snap as well. So it's been recommended to me directly from Red Heart that you work from the outside of this ball. There you have it. That's the first section of the Marley Bird Popular Poncho. I know it's a big one and I know you can do it. It's a little bit tough, but give yourself some time and some patience. Maybe do what I did and grab some alternative yarn to learn the stitch pattern first before you jump into the poncho. If you join me in the Crochet Along Facebook group, I will be there to be able to answer questions. And I know that the contractors who actually made these samples are over there as well. And all of your friends, all these other people that are making this poncho along with you will be there to offer help and guidance and direction. I am so thrilled you are joining me for this Crochet Along, and I hope that we will be able to make this great poncho together, and I am here for you. Remember that, okay? Share with me your project. Use the hashtag MarleyBirdCAL so that way I can find your projects as you post them on social media, because I want to see your works in progress, and I am here for your journey. So let me participate, okay? I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarn, and this is the raised chevron stitch, which is section 1 of the Marley Bird Popular Poncho. I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys! Looking for more Marley Bird? Don't worry, I've got you covered. Click right down there and you will find more videos just like this teaching you how to knit or crochet, all brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. Go ahead, click away. Don't be shy. Don't forget to smash that like button.